Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands, and welcome to an SP Reviews, where today we have ourselves a track from an act named Const71 titled Turning the Key. And if we switch over to here, I should have a look down here. We have the lyrics down here. A piano from Matt Young and Paulina Chorna, flute Alex Brandner, vocals Eric Tuffin, Sam and Louise A. Lyrics Constantine Derekas and production Constantine. Lyrics and production Constantine. So Constantine, this is music from Constantine. Some background on the song. Originally, Turning the Key was conceived as a poem exploring the theme of alcohol addiction and its destructive aftermath that delves into the internal struggle of attempting to break free only to find oneself ensnared again in the cycle of relapse and guilt. Inspired by a short organ piece shared by Matt Young on a popular Facebook music group, I transformed the poem into a song. I approached Paulina Chorna, the pianist for the song, presenting her with a brief sample of my lyrics sung to Matt's original organ composition. After auditioning several vocalists, I ultimately chose Eric's rendition. To enhance the song, I decided to incorporate backing vocals from another submission and finally added Alex Brandner's flute melodies to complete the composition. For the music video, I assembled free stock footage sourced on the internet. So that's cool. We got ourselves a story for this. I think we understand what it's about. We've also got lyrics to check through at the end if need be, but we're going to listen through this track from start till finish. I'm going to hear what we think. Let's go. Incredibly sad, isn't it?
Staggered footsteps inside my head. How did you find me? There's no way I'm letting you in, but then you turn the key.
Beautiful, beautiful harmony there in the upper register for the vocals.
Go away, leave me alone. Why can't you just let me be? No matter how hard I try to get away, you pull me back in and won't let me breathe. A shattered windshield splinters my mind.
Repeats.
Fills it with screams. A nightmare replayed inside my head. Each time you turn the key, leave me the hell alone. Why can't you just let me be? No matter how far I run away, the monster I'm running from is me.
Phenomenal flute solo. I haven't really heard that before in any of the reviews I've done. It's such a accessible song, and it's so minimalist with its instrumental layers, but it carries so much weight simultaneously. It's really fascinating. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion of my review of this track from an act named Constantino Const71 titled Turning the Key. Now, what I think this track is about, what I can tell me, I know that we spoke about it. We spoke about it initially at the start of the video, we looked at the description on YouTube and everything like that. Turning the key implied with substance abuse indicates to me this is about like drunk driving and the accidents that can occur, and we're sort of blaming ourselves for not having the self-control and the inhibition to be able to prevent ourselves from making those mistakes. That's the understanding I have of what this track is about and where we're going with it. I think that it's a topic that isn't really spoken enough about. I think drink driving here in New Zealand is it's terrible. It's a thing that happens far too often, and it's because, again, people, when you're under the influence, you don't always make the best decisions. It's incredibly impactful. I'm sure there were people listening to this who have had experiences where they have been inebriated or had someone being sort of like injured or killed in these situations. So I think that it will be quite visceral, kind of listen for some people, as well as anyone who is sort of suffering from issues with dependency on alcohol or drugs or whatever. But I think that nonetheless makes it very important, and I don't know if congratulate is the right word. I am appreciative of Constantine Derekas for putting this forward and for working with the team that they have in order to make this track possible. I think that the vocals are sensational. I think that we have a great sense of pacing and phrasing with the way we express ourselves, both in our main vocals, parts in the sides there, the repeats that we have in the second verse there, the harmonies that we have in the chorus section as well are absolutely stunning. There's just a lot of really interesting things to listen to from the singer themselves. The way they tell the story seems very authentic and genuine, like it is coming from the heart. And it almost seems so believable that you'd expect that they were actually going through that situation themselves, and they might have, to be fair. It's very powerful. It's not just that we can sing the words and hit the right notes and have a sense of dynamic range with it and a way of expressing ourselves that seems appropriate for the lyrics, but it's also combining and consistently adjusting the way we put ourselves forward in a way that it keeps the vocals nonetheless quite fresh throughout the song, where the piano line, at 2 minutes 48, while there's a lot of flair to the flute parts and the piano parts and everything like that, this is quite a sad song. And even though I appreciate the gravity of it, I think it's really wonderful that we had the piano melodies that we had at the start. They're very sad, and it's quite a heavy mood to carry throughout, which is part of why I'm appreciative this is 2:48. I don't think that sad songs should be short by default, but what I mean is that if you establish a concept, a theme earlier on, and you've kind of explained what it is, and if there's no clear sense of resolution there, as we didn't resolve to major at the end, we got no indication that the person telling the story has necessarily managed to escape their demons, that they're still inside their head and everything like that. I think that length is enough for like a couple of verses, a couple of choruses. You have that wonderful flute solo, because if I quickly talk about the instruments, the playing of the flutes, the melodies there, the texture to it, the actual tone and sound of the instrument was absolutely wonderful. And I don't hear enough flutes in modern music. I think that was a great sort of addition to this piece where the keys were the foundation. We just had this tremendous sense, this wistfulness to it. It's almost like a wisdom that is inferred through it there. It's like a bird or the life fluttering away. And I love that we clearly were very confident with the instrument. We knew how to express ourselves really eloquently with it. It was a wonderful foil for the vocal parts when they had that flute section, flute solo. And otherwise, it was nice and supportive in some of those vocal runs and the repeaters in the second chorus verse, for example. I really don't have any complaints about it. I don't know if you could have added more than the flutes and the keys to this in a way that would have been productive. I think that there was just enough diversity with the key parts and the flute parts to make that 2.5 minutes work. There was a lot of there was tension and drama to the various components and progressions from like the bridge sections or the verse sections in the chorus. They were quite distinctive. Like they weren't too samey, don't get me wrong. And I don't think that messing around with the frequency spectrum would have necessarily improved the experiences. You kind of wanted the track to be as heavy sounding as it was in order to remain consistent with the subject matter. I think with a really authentic vocal performance, melodies that were very harmonies that were very engaging, keys that filled the frequency spectrum in a way that was very satisfying, as well as a stereo field, and with a flute as an alternate lead foil, I think that relative minimalism, like avoiding like guitars and bass and drums and stuff like that, to have that more, the primaries there, was a smart move in regards to the composition and instrumental layering. The theme that it produced was one where it was of regret. It sounded like regret. We never found resolution with the melodies at the end there. It was basically it wasn't depressing, because it seemed like we were always going somewhere, like we were always kind of carrying ourselves, we were sort of punishing ourselves for our own sins. It was visceral in a sense there. There seemed like there was no light at the end of the tunnel there, and I think that that's often the consequence of our actions in those situations. And so I think the theme with the chords used, with the melodies there, with the lack of resolution, as I mentioned a few times now, and with the lack of any sort of pace or rhythmic elements pushing us forward, you're just kind of stuck in that place and you're kind of wallowing it and struggling with the loop that you're in with addiction. I think that that's actually really intelligently done. I don't have any complaints about it. I don't think there's a note out of place. I mean, finally, the studio recording, mixing, and mastering is nice and tight. The vocals had a great clarity of the mix. I was initially unsure if they were a bit loud, just because the amount of dynamic range allowed for the keys and the flutes and everything like that. I mean, given the sub layers of the vocals, like the little humped parts, as well as repeaters on the sides and the harmonies and all that, the glow to those was wonderful. And I think that they paired really nicely in the Frequency Spectrum with the piano and the flutes, even though they had similar ranges there. There was no red resonant frequencies in the mid to high or low ends there. It was relatively well balanced there. There wasn't a whole lot of kind of wiggling around with the automation or something, so things were relatively sort of like static in their positions. But because you had different layers doing different things moved around regardless. The music was nice in the wide stereo field, if nothing else, the vocal harmonies and the keys. There was changes in difference between like loud and quiet parts there. The vocals just sounded like they were just well sung. You know, we didn't need to do any additional kind of fixing up or anything in post. We just got good takes. And it was still nice and loud though without pumping, so the bus compression limiting was handled. I mean, effectively, this is my review of this track from an act named Const71 or Const71, titled Turning the Key, and hopefully you enjoyed it. Even if it wasn't necessarily a fun song to listen to, it was nonetheless a meaningful one. If you enjoyed this track, please do go show Constantine some love via the various social medias and the YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as either hell more than ever thought of great stuff going on in the world, and I will catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.